Welcome back to Zorro Recaps. Today, I'm going to explain the movie All Is Lost, released in the year 2017. We see an abstract image of a floating item in the Indian Ocean, 1,700 nautical miles from the Sumatra Straits. When our man wakes up 8 days earlier, the Virginia Jean, his yacht, is taking on water. When he steps outside, he discovers that the ship has collided with a detached cargo container of shoes, causing a yard-long hole in the boat's high starboard side. He attaches a sea anchor to the container after going down to fetch it. The container is separated from the sailboat by the anchor. In order to get his sea anchor, he takes the boat back to the side of the container and climbs aboard. After that, he permanently steers his boat away from the container. When our man checks the boat's electronics, he finds that they are broken. He takes out a box containing fiberglass repair materials, prepares a batch, and then begins fixing the hole. In order to fit a piece of wood into the manual hand bilge pump hole, since he misplaced the lever, he uses a knife. He begins pumping the water out from beneath the deck. He stays in the boat that night and sleeps in a hammock that is above the water. The next day, he keeps adding water to the boat and mending the side hole. The labor is tedious and sluggish. He removes the radio equipment and washes the inside of the components with bottled water to wash away the conductive sea salt. He spreads them out on the balcony to dry. He can finish cleaning the cottage with a sponge and mop the next day. Although his fiberglass patch appears weak, it does keep water out. He carries a service battery up to the deck and connects it to his radio. The radio is inoperable. He refers to his nautical charts. He descends, and as he reads a book on celestial navigation, he overhears a radio broadcast. He quickly climbs back up onto the deck and calls for help. The radio goes dead before it seems to operate. He takes a few hard cocktails later and starts preparing dinner. Rain starts to fall. He steps outside and enjoys rinsing off in the light rain. He has a spaghetti meal, reads a portion of a book under a headlamp, and then goes to bed. The next day, he raises a bosun's chair high up the pole and finds a disconnected antenna lead. While reaching the top of the mast, he reattaches the lead but notices an approaching tropical storm. He quickly lowers to make arrangements for it. Even taking the time to shave, he packs things away. When the storm hits, he initially rushes under exposed poles before the wind until he decides it is too exhausting and risky. He goes back below deck and dons a rainsuit. He dons a safety belt and begins crawling to the bow to lift the storm jib with the intention of getting the boat into a hove-to position. He is suddenly knocked overboard by a strong wave. He is able to cling on and drag himself back into the boat. Once inside the cabin, he throws up seawater and temporarily passes out. The boat begins to list severely before flipping over fully. The sea anchor is thrown out once he returns to the deck. He is thrown overboard when the boat performs another 180-degree turn. Just as the boat is about to right itself, he moves around the mast and returns to the deck. Most of the equipment on board has been damaged, and the main mast has broken. When he returns to the cabin after releasing the mast, he discovers that the fiberglass repair has resumed leaking. He bumps his forehead on the bulkhead when the boat jolts, losing consciousness as a result. When he awakens, there are nearly 2 feet of water inside the cabin, and more is pouring in. He takes the suitcase with the life raft out onto the deck. He ties the raft to the sailboat's railing, throws it overboard, pulls the ripline, and the raft inflates on its own. He pulls it up alongside the boat, then climbs on. He raises and turns the raft's roof before zipping it shut. He remains in the dark for the remainder of the storm. He awakens in the raft that is attached to the boat that is now partially underwater the next morning. The raft is brought up near to the boat by him pulling on the rope. He boards the vessel and takes a closer look. He crawls inside the flooded cabin and dives to get some canned food, water, and other supplies. As he is about to go, he stops himself because he has another thing he needs, drags the raft back to the boat, and then returns inside the cabin to get a white cardboard box by diving beneath the water. Then, as he begins to treat the cut on his forehead, he becomes aware that the boat is sinking. He goes back to the raft and waits for the Virginia Jean to go down. He takes out the card and sextant from the white cardboard box. He disregards the card without even opening it. In order to figure out where he is, he then consults an instruction manual and tries using a sextant and navigational maps. After napping, he awakens to discover seawater seeping into his raft. He begins mopping it up with a rag and wringing it out over the side. He thinks that moving over to the shipping lanes will give him the best chance of being discovered. He is traveling north by northwest toward a shipping zone he can see on the map, based on his data. Another storm sweeps in. His raft gets destroyed by the storm. He opens the cover and steps outside to raise the raft. He goes inside and covers his ears and eyes as he is surrounded by water, wind, and rain. The next morning, he uses a hand pump to re-inflate the raft and keeps draining water from it. When he discovers that his water jug has been tainted by seawater, he becomes upset and lets out a long F word. He has an idea, rips open the water jug, and constructs a freshwater still out of a plastic bag. As a result of his exposure to the elements, our man becomes numb and dehydrated. He grabs some water while his job is still going on and savors it. He notes that he is currently in the shipping channel and starts to carefully scan the horizon. Seeing nothing, he sleeps. He spots a cargo ship as he awakens, lights a flare, and cries out for assistance as the ship passes by quite closely. It continues to move before vanishes. The next day, his fishing line finally receives a tug, but just as he is ready to reel in a fish, a little shark grabs it at the surface. Under his raft, there are several sharks swimming. He awakens that night to discover another cargo ship sailing close by, practically on top of him. He launches 2 aerial flares this time, but once more the spacecraft continues to move and vanishes. On the 9th day, he traces his progress northward, leaving the shipping channel and returning to the open ocean. He has no more food, very little water, and little chance of continuing to live. He composes the message, places it in a jar, and then reluctantly throws it into the ocean. He notices a light in the night sky that may be another ship. As he has no other means of signaling, he shreds blank pages from a book and his notebook to light a signal fire in the empty water jug. He loses control of the fire as he adds more paper to it, and the flames devour his raft. He trips and drowns. While treading water and gazing up into the sky, he watches the raft above him burn as he stops swimming and lets himself drop. He sees the searchlight of a boat nearing the hull of his flaming raft as he sinks. One hand reaches down to our man as he swims to the surface. That's all for this video. Subscribe if you want content like this and leave a like and also comment the name of your favorite movie. Goodbye.